One of my first memories of Nsukka and Nigeria was the roads in the east. Just full of, it was not even potholes, it was completely, huge ways, places where the road had completely collapsed. So much that one time a whole lorry went 3/4 in. The roads were in a really, really pitiful state. Another thing I remember was the first days I was there in July 72. The joy of people that greeted themselves with happy survival. And because I was blessed to have been following the war from France, so I knew every detail of it already. But of course I had never been on the spot. And so it touched me. Just like you go to the market and you want to buy something and there was very little to buy. When I asked for a table for my kitchen, because the university supplied the housing and everything that was in it, is the time I heard and I learned. In fact, people told me that the works department had very little furniture to share because everything had been destroyed during the war. So what remained was what remained from before the war. And since 1970, it was just like 2 years and there was very little. People slept on doors. Many people had no bed. I was given a bed because I was an expatriate. So the university had really suffered. The louver windows in the main library were non-existent. They had been all destroyed. So it was just open. Princess Alexandra Auditorium was still roofless because it had been bombed by the Nigerians. And so it was like an empty shell. Only the 4 walls remaining. I remember that and I was wondering, why is it that they didn't build it again? I guess they had no money because the university was frantically looking for reconstruction. There was no church. So they were just starting from foundations to build the church. And so by the time we married in April 74, we had to marry in a classroom because there was no church. The only church that was in existence was the St. Church, the Catholic Church. But the others had no church. They just met in ref or classrooms. And then we went to the village for the first time in December 1972. And when we reached Abagana, I was asking my husband, well, at that time we were just fiancés. I said, what is that on earth? It was carcasses of 4x4, lots of them lined up, completely burnt out. And it's at that time I remembered what was the best victory on the Biafran side, having roasted alive a whole convoy of Nigerians, Nigerian army. And these carcasses remained there for quite a while before they were cleared. Another thing I learned was about Oji River, where there was a kind of hospice, and all the people that were veterans, disabled veterans, were put there. And not long ago, some 5-6 years ago, here now in the UK, I learned that they were just like hidden away actually, because the Nigerian government didn't really fancy telling people that he had a whole lot of them on wheelchairs there. The last thing I remembered was there were lots of what they called mad people at that time. I was wondering why they were there. They were quite a number, and their head was disheveled, they were stark naked, and they were roaming about, talking to themselves. Some were sleeping in the roundabout in town, and they were just in a terrible state. And one time I saw someone that was trying to offer some music therapy to them, playing the local flute, Oja, and then they were all following, and they looked like they were happy. And it's only when I read the last book of Achebe, before he died, he published his last book, and he was saying that one of the sequels of the war was that post-traumatic disorder, PTSD, and that it affected people, but it was like a taboo subject. Nobody was talking about it. They brought one of those to our church, and we managed to rehabilitate the person. But it was really sad to see them. And that was not only for Nigeria, because I've met two of them at least in the UK. People whose life were completely destroyed by the war. One was permanently on medication, and his life was ruined. The other one was seemingly okay, but when he's alone, you know that there's something wrong. So these were sad stuff, and it just went as an additional information to all that I had gathered from France during the war. Was as sad. And I remember so many times Igbo people at Nsukka saying, Ozoemena, let it not happen again. My children were saying that one time in the playground in primary school on campus. Children were just singing songs, and one sang a song, a war song that he probably had learned at home, and he was shut up by the teachers who said, Ozoemena, Ozoemena. The children didn't know why they couldn't sing. They didn't understand. Sad, sad story that will not go away.